You're watching Newsday TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ken Bufa. More human remains have been found at Bethpage State Park, and police say they belong to the same victims from last week's discovery. Sherry Einhorn has the story.
It's intense.
That was the reaction to news that multiple arrests were made, according to law enforcement sources, in connection with the Babylon body parts investigation after a search warrant was executed at this home on Railroad Avenue in Amityville.
You see people walking their children and dogs all on this block, so that's crazy.
Suffolk police now confirm additional human remains were discovered today at two separate locations, Bethpage State Park and in a wooded area across from a home on Lakeway Drive in West Babylon. Investigators say the remains do belong to the same victims whose body parts were discovered last week at Southard's Pond Park in Babylon. Those victims have been identified as a 59-year-old woman whose name isn't being released yet, and a 53-year-old man who's been tentatively identified but also not named publicly. Police say their last known address was Together in Yonkers, though it's unclear when they last lived there. A high school student discovered a severed arm while walking to school on Thursday. That prompted police to search the park. The other remains were found later in the day by cadaver dogs on opposite sides of the park. Back in Amityville, a Suffolk County Police Mobile Command Center was in front of the two-story house on Railroad Avenue overnight, and crime scene investigators removed a brown bag from the home. Neighbors here on the block told us they had no idea what was happening. They just saw a lot of police activity. A Newsday reporter reached out to the man listed in public records as the owner of this home. He declined to comment and then hung up. In Amityville, I'm Sherry Einhorn for Newsday TV.
And only in Newsday, after years of waiting, Newsday got a hold of former Suffolk County Executive Steve Levy's two-page non-prosecution agreement. Newsday reporter Mark Harrington explains what was in those papers.
After a multi-year investigation by former District Attorney Thomas Spoda, Steve Levy, the former county executive, agreed to a settlement that it says here, in the subject matter portion, says the investigation included allegations involving campaign fund issues, alleged ethics disclosure, alleged improper tax filings, alleged allegations of improper lobbying, and alleged improper activities involving real estate transactions. So looks like a pretty serious list of stuff. Unfortunately, it doesn't really say what exactly was found, what was substantiated, what wasn't. Are these potential allegations? Nothing that was, followed through. In any case, Steve Levy did agree to forfeit his campaign finance fund, his $4 million roughly, and not to run for office for the Suffolk County Executive's office again.
Now you can read more about this story at Newsday.com. Another lawsuit has been filed in the Farmingdale bus crash. More than a dozen families have filed lawsuits since the September crash, and parents are suing the school district, bus driver, and the transportation company. Court papers say the defendants were negligent, careless, and reckless in the ownership, operation, and inspection of the bus. 2 educators were killed and dozens of students were injured when their bus careened into a ravine. And a former NYPD officer from Long Island went on trial today for allegedly shooting his childhood friend to death. Steve Langford has more from court.
Nearly 4 years after a rookie New York City cop allegedly shot and killed his childhood friend on Langdon Road in Farmingdale, a jury heard opening statements in the trial of Eric Allen in Nassau County Criminal Court on charges of murder, manslaughter, and menacing. It was an execution, a prosecutor said, deliberate and unjustified. Allen showing up with his fully loaded NYPD-issued Glock to meet Christopher Curro, who was sending him angry text messages. Within 3 minutes of the 2 young men meeting that evening, Curro was dead, shot 5 times by the off-duty cop.
In my view and opinion, it's a classic self-defense case.
Anthony LaPinta, Eric Allen's defense attorney, told the jury his client was attacked by his old friend and tried to get back in his car to leave, but was unable to, as the friend continued to advance and put Allen in a chokehold, trying to grab the cop's gun, the attorney said.
He was fighting for his life, and when you shoot to kill, as a police officer, you're trained to kill. But you first have to make that determination that deadly physical force is warranted. And it was here.
The jury is expected to see video the victim took on his phone right after a first shot was fired. Then hear the 911 call the victim then made, which includes the sound of 5 gunshots, which hit and killed the victim. Steve Langford for Newsday TV.
New legislation says there will be higher fines and also higher rewards when it comes to dumping on Suffolk County land. The Evergreen Initiative passed unanimously today, and it says those caught getting rid of debris will face bigger fines. $15,000 for individuals and $25,000 for companies. Individuals who report a crime, too, can get up to 25% of the penalty.
It makes a difference when people see their faces and their experiences reflected in our newspaper. I think it makes them feel seen in some way.
Newsday, covering Long Island like no one else can.
Making maple syrup right here on Long Island. Ariel Dellinger has a story you'll see only in Newsday.
We've been here for 40-some years. We learned what hard work is. This is hard work. This is not easy, but it's fun.
Bob and Jean Benner bought this 15-acre farm on a whim in the late 1970s. Neither knew much about farming, but both were ready to learn. And today, they and their adult children teach other Long Islanders about farm life.
What do you think it does? Take a guess.
The Benners, who used to work as school teachers, run educational programs including a maple sugaring workshop, open to scout groups and to the public.
It was freezing last night and it's warm today, so the sap is running up and down today. Yeah.
How many gallons of sap does it take?
A sugar maple will be about 30 to 35 gallons to make a gallon. Norway maple will be about 40 to 50, 35 to 50, depends on the tree. Some trees make more sugar than others.
All right, we want to make sure our drill is level. All right, go for it.
After the sap collects, the Benners take the clear liquid, which is really just sugar water, and boil it until it starts to look like the maple syrup most of us would recognize.
It's being heated with wood, so therefore there's a smoky taste to our syrup. Our syrup tastes different because it's coming mostly from Norway maples instead of sugar maples.
And then they turn some of that syrup into one of my favorite things, maple sugar candy.
We have to wait for this temperature here. See how it's probably going to go up and then it's going to go back down again. Once that starts heating up, you can take the spoon and you can take the syrup that's kind of on the side that's cooled, and you can start pulling it down into the mixture. See, it's kind of lightening in color?
Yeah.
All right, it's going to go through 2 more times. I'm going to take this. See how it's cooling right now?
For Newsday TV, I'm Ariel Dollinger.
To read more about making maple syrup, go to Newsday.com, click Get More below the Newsday TV video box. The Bronx Bombers looking to bounce back after a disappointing season. Eric Boland reports from Yankees spring training.
Since Yankees pitchers and catchers reported on February 14th and position players 5 days after that, there's been an overwhelming sense of optimism and confidence going into the 2024 season. A lot of that has to do with how the 2023 season ended, a very disappointing 82-80 season, saw the Yankees miss the playoffs for the first time since 2016, a season that general manager Brian Cashman aptly and correctly referred to as a disaster. But in the offseason, the Yankees went about trying to fix a lot of what went wrong in 2023. They needed to diversify their lineup, get more lefty hitters, and they fixed it in a big way, getting Juan Soto via blockbuster trade in December, one of the best lefty bats, maybe the best lefty bat in the game. He will slot in more than likely number 2 in the lineup with Aaron Judge hitting right behind him. They brought in Alex Verdugo. He's going to play left field. He'll be in the starting lineup as well to further diversify it. And as a reserve outfielder, yet another lefty swinging bat, that one belonging to Trent Grisham, defensive first outfielder, but the Yankees, who have had problems on the defensive side of the ball, that should shore things up as well. Pitching staff, that's where all the question marks lay for the most part with this team, but they did add Long Island's Marcus Stroman. He should fit right into the number 3 slot in the rotation, right behind Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon, who a lot of people think is going to be the key to this season. Rodon in the first year of a 6-year, $162 million contract in 2023, much like the Yankees season. He was a disaster, but he came in looking like a much different player, and the, again, expectation around Yankees camp is the Yankees being back where they believe they belong as an American League East contender and getting to and winning their first World Series since 2009. Reporting from Tampa, this is Eric Boland for Newsday TV.
If the Yankees, go to Newsday.com, click Get More below the Newsday TV video box. Now let's take a look at your wet Long Island weather. And the news is not great. It's going to be a lot of rain, folks. Tonight you can see we have rain and fog, and tomorrow, check it out, more rain. You can see a closer look at tomorrow. Temperatures are elevated, but we have a ton of rain all day, except at 9 o'clock where that cloud is going to cover you while you go to work. Take a look at the 7-day. You guessed it, more rain.
Long Island weather is brought to you by Home Tax Saver, PTRC Incorporated.
You're watching Newsday TV. I'm Ken Bufa. Thank you so much for joining us.